I'm going to open it up. Let's see who's jumping in here. Hello, folks that have joined already. Welcome to our fancy little webinar with Tyler and Cory. I'm going to let folks jump in over the next couple minutes, but I will introduce ourselves. So my name is Tyler. I head up marketing and sales over at PartnerStack, joined with our friend Cory Snyder over at teamwork.com. And today, this is going to be Cory's show. We're going to go deep on everything Cory has learned around partner recruitment, and I think a perspective that is somewhat unique in the space that I think is really worth sharing and unpacking together over the next hour. So that's the plan. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for spending time with us. Cory, what do you think? Should we just dive in?
Yeah, let's get rocking.
All right, let's do it.
Action-packed deep dive into partner acquisition specifically, which has been something I've played with and I've had to try to figure out, or at least attempt to figure out. I would say made a lot of mistakes and all that kind of good stuff, which has created a really good conversation with the rest of the partner ecosystem around quantity and quality and all that stuff. And we'll dive into a little bit of that because I think I'm about middle of the road on how to do it and what to do. I think this conversation around partner commissions, whether or not they're valuable or not, I also, it depends on your perspective and what you look at. But today we're going to talk specifically around partner acquisition, which has been, again, for the most part, a passion project for myself. Most of the programs that I've ran, I built from the ground up. And so you're kind of forced to say, okay, how do I figure this out and what works and what doesn't work? So a little bit about me, and then we'll make it quick. Dad of 5, been married for almost over 21 years now. Love traveling, golf, and anytime I can take to spend time with my fam. Been in partnership games since about 2008 when I was an account executive and I was required to go make some things happen. And I realized I can have really good conversion rate. I can get the same amount of leads as everybody else. But if I really want to up my game, I need to create my own distribution or my own lead sources. And so I created a ton of SGLs, self-generated leads through partners, had about 30 partners feeding me leads while I was a sales rep. And then a couple years later, they said, hey, we're going to start a team. Do you want to do it? And boom, there was my introduction into partnerships. A majority of what I've worked with and who I've worked with the agency, so I will caveat that here, is I've worked with a ton of tech partners, integration partnerships. There is a different motion there, absolutely, but specifically with, I would say, solution partners, agencies, resellers, this is kind of the way that I look at it and the way that I like to do it. And arguably, you could use the same methodology within affiliates and referral partners and things like that, trusted advisors. So based out in Phoenix, Arizona, I have been since I was 4. So you learn to love the heat or you need to have a pool, one of the two. So agenda, I try to keep it super simple. I'm a big fan of tactical and sharing with you tactical ideas and what I'm literally doing every single day and have been doing for years. So hopefully it's easy for you to absorb, ask me a ton of questions, reach out to me directly after it's over. Happy to have a conversation, but we're going to go after, first and foremost, who. Who should you be going after? Competitors and why that's important and where that makes an impact. Your IPP, leveraging different tech partnerships. And I'm not even talking about integration. Hopefully the idea I share with you is a little bit more around thinking outside the box. The idea behind recruiting partners is who has the partners I want. Same conversation with a partner is who has the customers that you want. Right? It's a deep dive into that kind of methodology. And then we're going to actually dive into quantity to quality, which I'm a big, big fan of it. And you have people in the bucket of quantity, you have the people in the bucket of quality. I'll explain what I mean by that when we get down there. But we're also going to go over the how. It's like, what's my methodology? How do I actually make this happen? Once we kind of figure out the who and the IPP characteristics, then where do I actually go find them and what do I do? What's my pitch deck look like? What's my application process look like? And why do I have an application process? What's my competitor process? And how do I reduce function? And then we're going to jump into process. Okay, great. So now we figured out the who somewhat, right? You don't have to figure out it fully. That's not the idea. Then you're going through the how. This is how we're going to do it. Okay, great. How do we implement this in an automated format? I only have one person. I'm a sole person, or I only have two people. How do I automate this to get the best out of it, the best experience for our partners, and create a badass program? And through that process, you're going to break it. And I hope you break it, because that is the idea behind it, is like you're ever evolving, like with anything else. All right, so let's jump into the who. First and foremost, know your IPP. Wrong. In my opinion, my humble opinion, you don't need to know your IPP, your ideal partner profile. What you do need to know is a close assumption, a thesis, if you will, right? Walking into teamwork.com, I knew what product they sold. I knew what program they were trying to build. I could get an 80% IPP there, right? But to really complete it, which the learnings were awesome, once you start moving forward with data and gathering information about your partners and creating your onboarding process and your motions and all that good stuff, that is when you dial in your IPP, right? So know your IPP, understand who your competitors are and why they're your competitors. Do some searches on the competitors. Understand specifically, do they have an agency program? Do they have a solution partner program? Do they have an affiliate program? Are they sharing that information on their websites? All that kind of good stuff. The other thing that I work heavily on is on the tech partnership side. And when I say tech partnerships and how does this make sense with affiliates or solution partners and blah, 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 is very simple. An integration with a tech partner may not make sense, but they may have the exact same ideal partner profile as you. So why not share? Why not get them in front of your partners and they get you in front of your partners and vice versa? Why not? The biggest thing is don't overthink it. Just get out there, put something out there, do it, test it, break it, figure out what makes sense. And then quantity to quality. Okay. So like specifically around quantity to quality, I like to add a ton of data before I say executive team, board, this is who we're going after. Okay. And if without the data, I'm making a very strong assumption that this is the answer. This is the bet. I'm going to shift my team from partner acquisition to enablement all towards that IPP. So I better be right. And so the best way for me to feel comfortable with that is take 6 months, get aggressive. We went from having 40, the program was open for a year. We had 40 partners. In Q4 alone, I started in October. In Q4 alone, we brought in 42 solution partners, agencies. And over the course of the last 9 months, we brought another 40. So we have already 2x'd our partner network. And through that process, I'm gaining information about partners, data. Who are they? Where do they live? What I'm asking them, and I'll show you this as well in the partner application on the how, is like I'm asking them all the way down to who else do you partner with? Because then I can go grab those tech partners and say, hey, an integration doesn't make sense, but maybe a conversation around us getting you in front of our partners does. Okay. I hope that makes sense to you. To me, it's pretty simple. If you're starting a new program or you're revamping a program, if you don't have data on who your partners are and what they offer, who they partner with, it's going to be tough to understand IPP. And what we realized with teamwork.com is we actually have two ideal partner profiles. We have one that sells quantity, so tons of potentially smaller customers, and we have one that sells bigger companies. They both may do 100,000 in ARR in a year, but they're going to look different, and those companies look different. Their ICPs look different, and so now we know that. If I would have made the assumption, we probably would have been right on our assumption, but we'd have had one ideal partner profile. So that's the reason why I like to dive in a little bit deeper on that. Plus, once you actually have an idea, then you get everybody behind you. Now your partner acquisition's aligned to who we're hunting. Now your marketing team's aligned to what materials that you need for these partners to be successful, and so on. Okay. So here's a little bit more if you wanted to dive in deeper in regards to like IPP characteristics. You got firmographs, you got technographs, the teams, a bunch of different things that you can kind of look at. I can share this with you, no problem. Jason Yarbrough put this together and shared this with me as well. I don't go that deep. In all transparency, I like to keep it for the most part super simple initially. but you have the ability to go super deep once you have the data. Okay. Hope this is all making sense as well. Competitors. I love going after my competitors and their partners. One of the most successful campaigns we ran, and I'll show you that in a second, was going after my competitors. And why? When you go after your competitors, the studies say that it takes 6 months to onboard and activate an agency partner, solution partner, right? I think most people have heard that. I think a day came out from like Partner Hacker or something. The easiest way to get them down to 30 to 60 days is by hunting somebody that is already doing it. In other words, if they're already a partner with your competitor, there's a good chance they've already productized the offering. They already have customers that they've sold doing it. They already have onboarding kind of figured out, and they know your product. So for us, project management, if I go after one of my competitors, let's say they have 30 partners and I go recruit them, I automatically cut the understanding of project management and how they would fit that into their business down to 30 days. We have partners bringing in deals within 15 days of becoming a partner now because they already had it in place. And so that's always the first thing I go after, because they're going to have a little bit better alignment on our IPP as well, or the assumption of what we think the IPP is. Okay. I would agree, Tanner. True for affiliates as well. Like anywhere where you can shorten the gap on the recruitment side of the house, do it, because onboarding so much faster. Tech partnerships. As I mentioned before, same IPP. The ideal partner profile makes sense. As an example, I'm working with Agora Pulse, and we're like, hey, it looks like we're going after the same people. And integration doesn't make sense, but hey, maybe we could share back and forth. I'm happy to get you in front of my partners and vice versa. And he's like, totally, let's do it. So we're in the plans of making that happen. And you could do this with anybody that it makes sense, right? It's one way of just, again, quickening your number of partners, forcing you to come up with your onboarding and the right materials that you need. And I'm a big fan of forcing functions, right? But again, don't overthink it. Just know that the IPPs match, and then how do you make that happen? If it's a webinar, great. If it's an email, great. Whatever makes sense to get them in front of your partners and vice versa. It's a quick way to gather a good amount of partners. So the how. One of the things I focus on heavily, I talked about this at Catalyst last year, was internal and the relationship with the internal teams. We do not, as partner professionals, don't focus on that enough. And honestly, the best partners that we've received probably in the last 60 days came from my account executives. So I'd ask yourself this: how many partner opportunities, partner leads to become a partner have you received from your internal teams? If you say 0, if you say 1 or 2, there's room for work there. When I first go into the organization, I start with the CSMs and say, okay, great. What are you hearing? Why are we losing deals on the sales side? CSMs, what are we struggling with from a growth? Why are they canceling after 12 months? Is it integrations? Is it usage? What is it? And the reason why, that gives me an understanding of what problems my partners can solve. So when I go back to my partners and say, hey, by the way, if you focus on this, there's a good chance you're going to solve some pain points that I can get you some leads. In addition to that, that helps my internal team with their KPIs. Sales gets the deal. CSMs get expansion, get stickiness of a customer. So internal is a really, really big focus of mine. We literally got a referral of a new partner yesterday. They signed up within, again, 2 minutes of the referral, and they've already registered 5 deals. Don't miss out on the internal relationships. And there's obviously inbound and outbound. We rebuilt our entire website from a partner pages perspective earlier this year, so we can really dial in exactly who we want and what we want. And so we built our website specific to our IPP that we're assuming it was. And then our outbound efforts, I'll share some of that as well. And then we're going to go over pitch deck. What does our pitch deck look like when we talk to partners? And my partner acquisition person, Caroline, and how does she do that? We're going to go over the application that I use in PartnerStack specifically, and why that's important and where we use that data. Marketing sequences, how we actually go after these competitors, customers, or our partners, and what do we do when we want to introduce them to teamwork.com. Obviously the competitors, and then consider friction, reducing friction, really. That's what I'm trying to do. Throughout this entire process of a how, I'm trying to think about it from a perspective of, this is great, we have tons of opportunity, but how do we streamline that whole process so we can do more with what we have? Not more with less, do more with what we have. So specifically to inbound, as I mentioned, we rebuilt the websites, cleaned up the CTAs. We vet every single solution partner that wants to partner with us. And that's partially because we want to make sure they're the right IPP, want to make sure that they're signing up for the right program, but it also sets a precedent from the very beginning. We want to partner with you, you want to partner with us, and here's why, right? So Caroline gets her booking link right here, and people book on it based on their interest. And we ask them a couple questions after when they go to book the meeting, so we can get a better understanding of who they are. But again, this just helps us make sure that we're bringing in the right ideal partner profile that's best for us. Now, keep in mind, if they're an agency and they're, let's say, below our IPP, but they're a solid fit, they're a great person, they're a great partner, we're still going to allow them to come in, obviously, and we're still going to work with them. We basically feed the partners that feed us. We put the energy in the partners that put the energy in us. So I've worked with a lot of smaller partners that didn't align to the IPP that generated 10 times more than a partner that did, right? That's why the IPP is, you can never get it perfect because there's always outliers, right? Outbound. So this is just one of our outbound campaigns that we had ran. And this is kind of like our total enrollments, 134 partners. And this is actually, we scraped to the competitors' websites just to get an idea of who it was. In addition to that, you can go to, like, if the solution partner makes sense, we went to HubSpot's directory marketplace, and we just clicked one of our competitors, and we just wanted to know who was a partner with HubSpot and one of our competitors. And we just started outreach. We started connecting with them on LinkedIn. We started reaching out to them directly and figuring out, does it make sense, and does a partnership make sense? And we created some marketing sequences, obviously, once we got them to connect on LinkedIn, and just tried to get in front of them. Tried to give them obviously they're getting a ton of requests to partner. They're getting a ton of outbound activity. But if I can drive some sort of differentiator, so like, give an example, the subject line that we had was HubSpot plus, and then our competitor's name. That was it. And it was being sent from us. And it was just basically like, hey, we know you're partnered with this person. A lot of our partners like to differentiate and open up their ability to sell different products within the same ecosystem. And this allows you to obviously have more reach and blah, 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 blah. And like, these partners were converting it super quick. Of the 134 in that short period of time, we created 28 deals, and 28 of them actually converted. So it was a really good campaign. It worked out really, really well. But again, we weren't shy about it. We feel we're the best product in the market, so we're going to go out and we're going to recruit partners based on that, right? And we are not shy about mentioning their current partnership. We love it. And again, the reason for it is, if you worked with partners long enough, many of them do not. Many of them differentiate. Many of them are agnostic, right? And so they're not just one specific partner. They may be partnered with 4 different CRMs. So you get the idea. Internal, I already kind of harped on this already, but build the relationships with your account executives, CSMs, and marketing. Telling you, if you do anything, and the reason why, again, this is so important isn't because you're going to get referrals, but it's because the internal teams will understand what you're doing. Last week, I was in Cork, Ireland, where we got our entire company together for what we call Grand Council. And I had the chance to bring out 2 of our partners, 2 of our top partners. They flew out, and I got them I was able to get them in front of multiple teams one-on-one, as well as just get them exposure for 3 days with our different teams. What was so great was to hear our executive team repeating the things that I was saying. We feed partners that feed us. Partners are an extension of our teams. They're listening, but the more that you build those relationships, the more that you do that, the more they will say the things that you're saying and repeat it. So obviously, I'm going to hound on that because I just don't think we're doing this enough on the internal side. We also do monthly newsletters. Those monthly newsletters we try to send to our internal teams, or at least a snippet of it. to our internal teams. We also attempt to get the partner information in the actual newsletter that we send out to our customers. Just be a part of the footer. Just again, awareness, right? We have Gong set up where we're tracking different keywords, whether it's keywords of our existing partners or keywords of, hey, I would like to partner. So we get notifications on that. I'm in almost every monthly meeting that sales, success, support, and marketing has. Just so they have awareness, just so they see me, right? Forefront of their minds. I love to give props. We have a thing where we give feedback. And I love to give as much feedback as I possibly can around what they did, how they helped us. What impact did they make on the partners' lives? How did sales and a partner work together to bring in a deal, which just happened, where it was a $28,000 deal and they worked together on it, and it was a NetSuite integration that needed to be done, and it took several months, but they made it happen. And the AE, the account executive, actually gave props to the partner publicly. That is what we want to hear, right? So that's that, again, hounding on the internal side. If you literally leave with anything, go to build relationships internally. Okay. I'm going to give you a view into our pitch deck. Our pitch deck, for the most part, is pretty simple. The one thing we did focus on is we did not focus on commission. We do mention commission in here, but commission, in my eyes, gets the conversation, but it's not why they partner. Okay. So if you're like, oh, we have 30% commission, they're like, okay, I'm interested, but it's not why they actually partner. And so you have to remember that. It's also not the reason why they'll sell for you, right? Commission is impactful, but they make their money off the service revenue, as you know. And now I will add a caveat that once the commission hits a point where it is paying for a headcount within the company, it now becomes an actual accelerator. It now becomes something that's impactful. So once you get the partner built up and ramping, and then they have enough commission coming in that's covering a headcount, call it out, because it changes the relationship there 100%. So this is our pitch deck. Again, super simple. We have a vision on what we're doing and how we're going to do it, just so the partners know. And then it's like, why do you want to become a partner? And then we drop a couple of things like, hey, let's, better together, exposure, partner directory. And then we drop the 30% commissions and some additional things. Probably too many words on it. We talk about exposure, our partner directory, our podcasts that we do. And then again, product roadmaps. You get a heads up on product roadmaps. And then we have a full training enablement. We built out what we call PartnerHub. We give them their own account, but we have this thing called PartnerHub that we built on 360 Learning. And through that 360 Learning, we basically gave them 19 courses that we gave our sales teams. Competitor information, you name it. So these courses allow them to go through and understand the product, to understand our competitors, our win or loss, all that kind of good stuff. And then you'll notice at the very end, I asked them, what do we expect of you? Right? Because I think that's important, right? They're not just partnering with you, you're partnering with them. And the expectations are usually pretty simple. You own the selling, support, and success of that client. That is why we're giving you 30%, because you're reducing our cost of acquisition and you're reducing our strain on support, which means we can give you back that funding. Okay. And we hold partners to it as much as we can. Partner application in PartnerStack specifically. I've added over the last month or so, I've just added a couple additional lines. If somebody complains like, oh, Cory, you're asking 20 things, 25 things from me, I'm like, great, go partner somewhere else. Like, it's a simple 1 minute of your time, 2 minutes of your time to fill out some information to become a partner. It's really not that hard. But if they have a problem with it, that's fine. You don't have to partner with us. But I asked them like the number of employees in the company, their ideal customer size, which is super important to understand the IPP. Because I think if they have a customer size of 10 employees or below, we should probably speak to them or have a go-to-market strategy that's a little different than if they have 50 or above, right? How many people do they have in their business? So we can get an understanding of like salespeople. And, obviously, why did you become a partner? But the one that I love the most is, what products do you currently resell or offer services to? And the reason why is it goes back to that tech partnership piece, where it basically is putting you in a position to be able to reach out to those companies and say, hey, 30 of the partners that we recruited over the last month or 2 months have mentioned that they also partner with you. Maybe it makes sense for us to figure out how to share lists, because it sounds like we have the same ideal partner profile, right? So each piece that I ask is 100% useful, and we use it in different ways. And over the last 6 months or so, we've really been focusing on IPP, pulling data, number of registered deals, size of deals, ARR that partners have generated, to really figure out what is the right partner profile for us that is the best for them, that's the best for us, that's the best for the client. We already went through the competitor piece, but the how is pretty simple. Scrape the website of the competitors. You can hire somebody from Fiverr on that to consolidate a list for you, and then just do your manual outreach one-on-one. LinkedIn, we connect with every single person on LinkedIn. That's like the number one place that we try to make that attempt. We leverage directories that people are built, and keep in mind, we have our own partner directory as well. So you can go hunt my partners if you want. I do it to you, so you can do it to me as well. Use competitors in the email sequences, in the sense of don't be afraid to mention your competitors. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's super easy. It doesn't take a ton of time. You just have to tell the person that is looking at the stuff what you need. So that way, when you get that Excel document or that Google sheet, you're getting the information that you want and need, right? So this comes down to like, what position should they be? CMO, CEO, president, stuff like that. Now we've done all this, right? So we know the who, we know the how, right? We're doing all this process. When I walked into teamword.com, we had a great program. We had the great starter program. Logan did a great job. What we didn't have was we didn't have streamlined processes. We had a bunch of manual things that we were doing that was honestly bogging down our teams aggressively. So what I did is I came in and said, okay, let's just clean it all up. Let's fix all this process. We had Caroline, who was doing our partner acquisition. She was sending out 2 documents to e-sign, NDA and a partnership agreement, even though within the partnership agreement, we had confidentiality in it already. So within the first 30 days, boom, we dropped the NDA. So that was already a win. The second thing we did is like, why are we having people sign this when we could just leverage the application process in PartnerStack to handle all the accepting of terms and conditions? So that's what we did. We transitioned away from that process and basically moved to a new process where as soon as they're ready to sign up as a partner, we send them the application. The application then collects all the data points that we're looking for. The difference is that she was manually, once they signed the documents, she was manually inviting them into PartnerStack, which means I got 0 partner in data on them because we were just inviting them to PartnerStack versus them filling out the application. So I didn't know who they were. I mean, I knew who they were, but I didn't know like who they were. What is their business? What do they offer? What's their IPP, their ICP, and all that good stuff. So then she would go, and once they signed, she would manually update the HubSpot record that they're an active partner. And then we may be lucky if they actually get into PartnerStack. We maybe like, we probably had, I would say 25% of our partners that were partners when I started that weren't even in PartnerStack, which means they're not referring teamwork.com, right? So by changing that process, we automatically cut down hours of her time. In addition to that, she can now do one-call closes. She can now sign the partner up right on the phone. If the partner's like, yeah, this sounds good, it makes sense. Here's the link. Let me walk you through it real quick, right? Because to get them signed up, then they'll get the terms and conditions in PartnerStack. And then what we did for the terms and conditions, so we can automate that too, is we put a piece inside of HubSpot. That's a checkbox that says accepted the terms and conditions. So if the partner joins PartnerStack, they sign up as a partner, and they don't accept the terms and conditions, we run an automation on them saying, hey, just want to make sure you saw the terms and conditions, log back into PartnerStack so you can view it, or so you can view them, right? It's our way of trying to force that conversation to get there. The other thing that we did is we automated the entire flow from PartnerStack into HubSpot as well. So she was manually doing all these processes. In addition to that, she was manually asking the team to create sandboxes for our partners. So what we did instead is we basically said, we worked with PartnerStack and they built out the flow that took the acquisition pipe, looked for the partner that signed up, closed out the pipeline, the opportunity to close to signed up. It then automatically created a task for our team to create the sandbox. So she didn't have to do that anymore. And then she just had to update the primary contacts that we have and make sure that and then we automatically assign the actual partner type as a solution partner. So all of that stuff she was doing manual. We completely automated that whole process. And then as soon as that was done, she brought in 15 new partners the very next month because it wasn't bogged down, right? So that's obviously a massive, massive win. We were able to then automate the intros from an onboarding perspective. So, hey, thanks for signing up as a partner. So we ran a sequence on that, said, introduce myself, Cory help you on the sales side, da-da-da-da-da. That was the whole idea. But the point is we basically just said, we have all this automation. Why are we not streamlining it? And so that's what we did. So within 30 days, we completely streamlined it. She brought in 42 partners within 3 months by cleaning up all of this, by reducing friction and removing that friction point. Not only for us, by the way, but for our partners too. Because when you send them that deck, they're going to read the whole thing. When you send them the agreement, they're going to read the whole thing. A lot of times when they do the terms and conditions, they just skim through it, make sure everything looks good, and you're good to go. But you already have them in PartnerStack. Okay, that is by far the most streamlined process that we have. Now we're evolving that process because each time we broke different pieces, knowing that we were going to, right? We're solving for the need at the point. And so now instead of giving everybody a sandbox, we're now going to send them out a form that they fill out that requests a sandbox for either projects or desk, our 2 products. And then at that point in time, when they fill out the form, we've set automation to notify the teams and all that kind of good stuff. So that's the idea behind this. Like, how do you streamline this process so you can just do more with what you have? And it removes a ton of, the relief that Caroline had, like, I don't have to do this stuff anymore. And then she getting partners to sign up on the phone, her mind was blown. So automatically her spirits were lifted. She's motivated, she's hungry, and she's been kicking butt. It's been awesome to see. So a quick flow on process. I try to keep it super simple. Pink being pre-sign up and the gray being post-sign up. So the partner books the call with Caroline on the calendar. She qualifies in or out. Pretty simple. She qualifies them in, sends them the application. The partner signs. Everything happens. All the whole automation process takes place that we streamlined. And then we automate the handoff as well. Right? Introducing the partner sales team, introducing onboarding, introducing PartnerHub. By the way, go into PartnerHub, do your onboarding there, and do your product track, so you know what the product does. And then basically, then we include the steps to a successful partnership in the next 30 days. What does that look like? Step 1, register a deal in PartnerStack, and here's a video. Step 2, create your directory listing with PartnerFleet. This is how you do it. Here's a video. And then Mark and I then book a call with the partner within the first week, get a conversation going. Pre-call, we do what every salesperson does. We do our research. So we read the application, get an understanding who the company is, who do they partner with, what products do they offer, services do they offer. And then at that point in time, we also ask them if they have anybody interested in the application process. Do they have anybody interested now for teamwork.com? And if they answer 1, 2, 3, or 4, we know, so we can bring that up to make sure they register. And then we go over next steps. And next steps are, hey, here are the 4 tips to what we could say starting a very successful partnership. If you worked with solution partners or agencies before, a lot of them will say, hey, do you have affiliate links? Do you have a link I can use and things like that? The downfall with that is that they're never going to get those leads. If they're a solution partner and they use an affiliate link, that's going to go to the direct team, they're going to get sold, and they're going to get affiliate credit. So what we tell them to do is to build a landing page that's dedicated to the partnership that talks about teamwork.com and you. In addition to that, we can give them pretty much any video on our website. So we give out this, it's like a 45-second product demo that is on Wistia. We just give them the Wistia code. They embed it directly on the landing page. And then the partner then gets to create content specific to what they do with the product. They then get to create their opt-in form. So now whenever they talk about teamwork.com and they're pushing out content constantly, they're now getting the leads. They're now getting the shot at the services and everything else. We then, once that form's done, we then tell them to announce the partnership formally. We even give them pre-written content. We then dive into verticalization. Does verticalization and niching make sense? Who are the top 5? Who are your most favorite people that you've sold in the last 5? The last 5 that you've sold that you're like your most favorite, had the most fun implementing, and why? And we dive in deeper on that because it's easier from a go-to-market perspective if we verticalize, and then productize. In other words, creating a specific product dedicated to teamwork.com, onboarding, implementation, whatever it is. So these are the 4 things we suggest every partnership. That's what we focus on when we work with them, is like, how do we drive the partnership forward? It's focused heavily on that. And then obviously you're going to break it. And I hope you do. That's the idea, right? 40 partners is different than 140 partners. 140 partners is different than 500 partners. The biggest thing is don't be married to the process. Build it based on what you think is going to solve the pain points over the next 6 months, and continue to reiterate as the world evolves. We've seen it over the last 4 years. It's been gnarly, right? And we've had to evolve. We've had to pivot. Same thing with your partner program. I like to go fast. I like to implement change fast, make sure that they're positive impacts for our partners as well as for the team, internal team. And then again, don't build it to be permanent. We've already broken and reiterated stuff that we built in January 3 months ago, i.e. the sandboxes. So things evolve, things change, and that's about it. And the last thing I'll leave for you, and then we'll jump into some questions. If there's literally one thing you're going to leave from, is just do it. But also the second thing would be internal. They will be your number 1 champions, and they will drive you a ton of partnership opportunities, right? But yeah, just do it. I love this GIF. It's one of my favorites. And then let's connect. That's my LinkedIn. Just scan it, and feel free to reach out to me if you got additional questions. But obviously, we'll knock into questions right now since we got time. Hopefully, that was
awesome.
Yeah,
that was great. That was great, Cory. Thanks for sharing all of that. I'll go through and flip some questions your way. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So we got a great question here from Julia. What percentage of your partners are actively passing leads? And have you found any useful tactics for getting dormant partners to become more active?
It's like the $1 million question. It's a great question. I would say our percentage, we're about 33%, what we'd consider active, which is they've generated at least 1 customer in the last 6 months, which to me, that's still like, it sounds great, but it's actually a little low when you think about, and it's low because we've accelerated fast. So by adding 100 partners in 6 months, it's going to reduce that because we're onboarding them. So even at about 33% of partners that have actually brought in a deal, I think that's still super low because we're still ramping, we're still evolving, we're still maturing as a team. And then how do I get people revamped? That is part of always staying in front of them. So one thing, I send out a monthly newsletter every single, obviously, month. We send out a newsletter, and when we talk about the successes that other partners have had and how they're leveraging and doing things within teamwork, testimonial videos, things like that, to really try to inspire them. You're always going to have what people call long tail. You're always going to have the equation, and not always, but the equation of 70% of your revenue comes from 30% of your partners. I've been trying to break that for years and years and years. And the way to do that is honestly a one-to-many approach is what I found to be the most successful, is leveraging, making sure that they're part of the process. But at the same time, you have to understand, that's the benefit of understanding a little bit more about them. Because if you have a partner that's within your IPP and they're not performing, they're not engaged, there's a reason for that. If they're outside of what you consider your ideal partner profile and they're a service partner, awesome. But don't waste your time because they're never going to sell your stuff. And so we focus heavily on one-to-many. So we have a full Slack channel as well that we built out, that you don't actually get into our Slack channel until you've finished our onboarding through PartnerHub, through our 360 learning. You have to finish onboarding and you have to finish the product track to be able to get into our Slack channel. Slack channel is a really, really easy way to activate partners, because if you can get partners answering questions and doing things, it gets them revived, it gets them active. But we're also calling them at least once every 3 months. So we're also reaching out, actively trying to build that relationship with them. And partners come around. I look at it the same way as sales, right? If you have people you're trying to sell and then they go dark, or they say, hey, hit me up in 3 months, same concepts. I'm going to follow up with them. I'm going to put them in long-term nurture. I'm still going to try to stay in front of them as much as I possibly can. Hopefully it's helpful.
That's great. Got a bunch more here. Here's a great one. I love this question. How would you recommend you get partners involved in CS, specifically to help reduce customer churn?
Oh, I love that question. And that's the reason why your relationship with CS is so important. Is a lot of times it's not even that CS doesn't want to do it. It's they just don't know. They're not thinking about like, oh, I need to solve this problem for this customer, because it's not within the realm of like the product. So what we have basically been doing is we're just getting in front of them. We have chats in different ways of just saying, hi, I'm Cory, I'm on the partner team. This is the problem. We also are tracking inside of our HubSpot instance, we are tracking the close loss reasons. And so I jumped ahead of that and I said, okay, let me look at the close loss reasons, get an understanding of why they're having an issue. But really the best way to do it is get a couple partners, try to get them in front of the team. So the best way to do it is reach out to the leader, say, hey, I'd love to have a couple partners come in and just talk to you guys about who they are and what they do. And I did that with, I had the 2 partners in Grand Council, and they got to meet with support. And literally Monday, when the event's over, I had 5 tickets in my inbox for customers asking for additional training and support on teamwork.com. And we weren't helping them necessarily. And automatically I could push 5 leads to our partners. And so it's partially because they just don't know. And so get in front of them. Like, again, I asked for 5 minutes from the teams. Just give me 5 minutes so I can ask people, get any questions. But that helps, but get a partner or 2 partners in front of the team. Bring them into that team meeting, introduce them. What do they do? How do they impact our customers? And all that kind of good stuff. The more you do that, the more you give them a track to understand how they should involve partners, the more they will.
Awesome. Got another good question here, a little bit around kind of org design, I think. So how many partners do you have currently? And then how many team members are on the partner team to manage that group?
Good question. Historically, I mean, how many do we have on the team now? We have 3 and then 4 counting myself. So we are a little heavy on the front end. We just hired somebody to help on the partner sales side, because we actually have another program that I'm running too, which is where we're taking our non-ICP leads and we're actually passing those to partners. So I'm managing that process. So we have a lot more going on than just the one program, but we have a partner acquisition person. We have a partner enablement person, onboarding person, and then mostly myself. That's what it's been. And we took it to, so we have now, I would say, we probably have closer to 150, 160 partners at this point. And we're scaling that to about 280 to 300 by the end of the year is the goal. And at that point, we'll pivot a little bit more aggressively on our IPV. But keep in mind, I was doing this as a sole person as well. At multiple organizations. It is possible. You just have to leverage automation. It's not ideal. I will tell you that. It sucks partially, but that's how big my team is now.
Cool. Love this. I love all these questions. These are great. If folks do have questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A, or feel free to see what other people have asked and vote them up. What are some things you see partner program managers doing that you think is a waste of time? Anything you think they should be spending more time on?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say, and hopefully this answers your question, I wouldn't say it's a waste of time. I think it's just it burns partners a lot faster than it should. And it is caring about yourself versus the partner. I'm a big fan of trying to figure out if I can generate leads and a go-to-market strategy with my partners, what's going to happen is I'm going to get revenue. So if I go figure out how to get them leads and how to get them to grow their side of the business, they're automatically going to sell my product. And that's kind of the methodology that I try to run with. A lot of partner managers focus on a lot of different things. Yeah, that's a great question. I would probably, again, I'd probably say they're wasting a ton of time trying to solve for themselves versus solve for their partners, which is what I try to do. It's hard though, right? Your cash, your money, your commission's based on a partner selling. So I get it. But the more that they can think forward in the sense of this is what we're doing. The other thing I would say is that they spend too much time on partners that are not executing. In other words, if you put a plan in place with a partner, it's like, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and the partner's not doing it, and they're putting faith and emotion into this, like the partner's going to be great, and then they're not, they lose a ton of time and a ton of waste of time on that partnership. And so making sure you set those priorities in place and those steps and make sure the partner is putting those steps. Again, we put the same amount of energy in that the partner puts into us. I hope that answers your question. That's a tough question.
I think that's great. And, I think it maybe rolls into another question here nicely. So how do you make partners take that partnership seriously? And there's a follow-up here is like, do you present some sort of partnership policy to them, upfront to set the expectation? Like what does that look like?
Normally the way that we do it is we worry less about the partnership and we dive into what do they want to accomplish. Like yesterday I had a call with a partner. I'm like, hey, have you set for 2024, do you have third party revenue goals? In other words, you have revenue goals internally, and then you have commission that you're trying to get from your third party revenues. And the answer was no, which is fine, but at least it gives us an understanding. I had one partner, it's like, we want to increase our revenue by 30% with third party vendors. Great. How can we be a part of that? What does the plan look like? Sometimes, depending on the partner, if it's one where we need to really execute on some items, we'll put together something called the BHAG, Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal Planner, which basically just says, here's what we're trying to accomplish, here's the goals, and then here's what we need to do, what I need to do, what they need to do, by what date to be able to execute on it. So yeah, I would say that it's again, you have to figure out the WIFM for them, right? You can fire a partner that does nothing for you. It's not firing an employee, but you have to find the WIFM. It's got to be a joint effort. They have to see value in what you're bringing to the table. In other words, if they sell a teamwork.com customer, what revenue does that bring to them, and why is that important to them? Right? We give out 30% commission. It's high in my opinion, but it is what it is. At least for tier 1. So that's kind of what I would say is like, we try to dive into the relationship to understand how do we make them money. And if we can make them money, and we are making them money, and we're making it easy for them. In other words, when they ask for something, we deliver. They ask for a piece of marketing materials, boom, we deliver. If they ask for pricing, we're on it, we're responsive. If, whatever it may be, we're at the forefront of their minds at all times. But we've built out, again, the benefit of going after competitive partners also is they've already done this, which means they're partially already value, which makes it a lot easier for you. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, that's great. Your comment on firing a partner leads to a great question here. How do you think about offboarding a partner? Do you have a process that you've put in place for that? Do you automate any of it? Anything there?
It depends on why. Why I'm offboarding them. If it's, if it's just you're wanting to clean up, right? You have 500 partners, but only 40 of them are active, and so you're going to offboard them. You can absolutely do that. You can put in a process like, hey, we've changed the direction that the program is going. Are you in or are you out? Kind of thing. We've done that before, which was helpful. In all transparency, I don't really offboard partners unless it is for egregious offense. If they're violating terms or anything like that, at that point in time, then you get legal involved to cease and desist, and there's certain things there, and that's pretty extreme. For the most part, I just let them sit in my ecosystem. I let them do their thing. If they want to reach out and they want to have a conversation and dive in deeper, great. But for the most part, I'm not putting any energy outside of a one-to-many approach to them. So I don't really necessarily offboard them. They kind of just go into the long tail world, if you will, into the one-to-many. And I just focus on the people that are focused on us. So we don't do a ton of offboarding unless it's extreme.
Mm-hmm. And following up on that, do you've talked a lot about your process and how you structure things, and you just mentioned one-to-many. Do you have like a very clear one-to-many, one-to-few, one-to-one approach? Like, are you that deliberate?
You can be. With teamwork.com, we are building that out because it is a newer program. So we're trying to establish what makes sense from a cadence perspective. Like for our top partners, is it biweekly? Is it weekly calls? What does that look like? Right. We're even dialing in what does it look like to do pipeline follow-up? Right. We have pipeline partners are registering deals in PartnerStack and they're coming into our HubSpot. And how are we managing that? And how are we managing the conversations? So I think it all kind of plays in together in all of it is like, what does that process look like? At Infusionsoft or Keep at Active Campaign, we absolutely had a cadence because we had thousands and thousands of partners. And so we had what we would basically do is we had established tiers. And those tiers, we required certain things from them. And as long as they did those things and stayed engaged, we would continue to work with them. And then we'd have different cadences for those, right? Weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it may be. So again, it depends on how granular we want to get, the size of your team. One-to-many is a great approach if you have a bunch of people that are just not super engaged in your program.
Awesome. And I'll close it with one final question here. And it's a big one. So I think, there's maybe a framework or some models we could chat through how to think about this, which is how do you build the perfect team to lead partnerships? Maybe depending on the types of partners you work with, size of company, wherever you want to take it. But I think that's an area that a lot of people are constantly thinking through is like, what's the org design for this thing?
Yeah, when I came into teamwork.com, I was stoked that they had somebody on partner enablement. And the reason why I think it's the most underutilized, underrespected position in the partner team is the person that is doing onboarding, enablement, and really kind of putting the methodology around your partner program in place and executing on it. So I always look at it from a perspective of need. What are you trying to accomplish? So if I was to build a program from the ground up, obviously I have the experience of doing all the positions. So I can kind of set it up and I have the leeway of the next 6 to 12 months and building it out and figuring out from an acquisition perspective and all that. But one of my very first hires, if I was to hire somebody, if it was just me, is going to be partner enablement and onboarding. And the reason why is if I can recruit them and then I can pass them to somebody that's going to build out the learning center, that's going to talk to them and understand what the onboarding looks like. What do you need from marketing? We get a ton of that separation between the two. And so at that point in time, then they get passed back to me for the sales of for the sake of the sales conversations. And then if at that point you've established some really good things, recruitment's starting to heat up and you're starting to lose money because you can't keep up with it, then you fill the next headcount. And if the headcount is sales because you're getting enough registered leads, then you hire for that. If it's, hey, we need to increase our partner acquisition side of the house, we need to hire for that. But if it was me and I had the chance to build a program from the ground up again, I would absolutely my first hire. If you have the skills in sales, partner recruitment, 100% hire somebody enablement.
I love it. And we had one very important question squeeze in. You have 5 children.
I do.
If you had to pick one, and you don't have to tell us which one, to train up as being the next great partnerships leader, who do you know who it's going to be? Like, what are their qualities? Who are you calling out?
My middle child is mostly like me. She's an absolute pain in my ass. I think she's going to be the death of me. But what I can tell you when I just hired for this last position, one thing I looked for was I think we also underestimate being charismatic, being able to be a people person, have a conversation with somebody, like having a conversation, a fluid, effortless conversation is so underrated, in my opinion. And so I looked heavily into that. Can I have a conversation with this person for the next 30 to an hour? Are they engaged? Do they, how are they responding, the whole 9 yards? Obviously, you could say, oh, they have experience in partnerships, they have experience in this and that or whatever. But to me, if I'm a partner on the other, if I'm thinking about it from my partner's perspective, I want a relationship. So I need somebody that can build the relationship and have the relationship and be able to be charismatic and have a conversation.
I love it. What an answer.
And so my middle child would be that kid. Or my youngest. Yeah.
Perfect. You got a whole team. Yeah. Thank you to everybody. Cory, you just shared another slide here, which is great. Over at PartnerStack, we have launched something fun here. You can check it out, partnerstack.com/fortune. And you can see your go-to-market fortune. You can answer some questions and see what's ahead of you for 2024 and maybe a little bit of guidance. And let's end it here with a little bit of fun. Cory, I got 6 cards here. Give me a number. 1 to 6.
Well, that's easy. My favorite number is 3.
Your favorite number is 3. All right. So my third card here was the Lonely Island. You want to know what that means for you?
What does it mean?
I hope so.
Doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good.
It suggests a sense of forced solitude, maybe out there golfing solo, a need to connect, right? You want to make sure you're creating these windows of opportunity to partner. And I think it ties into what you suggested, right? Cast a wide net, be open to partnerships, figure out what's working, and then zero in. That's how we're going to tie it all together. Thank you to everybody who joined. Thanks for the questions. We will flip out a recording in the next couple of days. Thank you to everybody. Mr. Snyder, always appreciate your insights. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.